Shadow of Rome is a fighting game with forced stealth sections. This is because the two playable characters have varying abilities. Octavianus is an expert in staying silent and applying disguises, while Agrippa is an expert in swords and decapitations. These two guys are buddies, and it reminds me of the friendship King Jong-un has with Dennis Rodman, in that it makes me ask myself, why the fuck does this exist, and why isn't anyone asking any fucking questions about it? This is because the two are incredibly different to one another, like night and day, or like Peter Moore and anyone who isn't an evil bastard! Agrippa is a tough, quick Roman soldier turned gladiator for some reason, it gets complicated, who spends most of his time with a gladius in one hand and a barbarian head in the other. His interests include frowning, shouting, swords, long walks and beats, grunting, and swords. In my opinion, he's manly enough to be in a game about swords and decapitations like Shadow of Rome. In fact, he gets a 10 out of 10 for swords and decapitations, because in many ways, playing this fellow makes you feel fucking awesome when interacting with such elements as swords and decapitations. But do you know who doesn't do well in games about swords and decapitations? That's right, Octavianus. He spends most of his time sneaking around corners and listening in on people in rather mediocrely crafted stealth sections. I suppose the stealth sections are just about entertaining. You can only attack guards by knocking them out with vases or rope, and you have to do this from behind without alerting them. But what I find crude about this is that the gameplay only ends when you get seen and then killed by a Roman guard. What I mean is, you're given a chance to run away from guards as soon as they spot you. I find it incredibly easy to get away from them. Throughout the level, you're given an awful lot of hiding places such as vases and cupboards, and as long as nobody sees you get into the hiding place, you're off scot-free. Also, there's a very fun glitch where if you run for a doorway and wait for it to close behind you and then route behind it, the guards get a little bit muddled and start running against the door with no success. It makes me feel a little bit bad, actually. These guards always seem to have some sort of learning difficulty, and by tormenting them like this, I always think, oh shit, he just used his sword and decapitated me! So I guess the stealth is pretty vanilla. Nothing new here. It's just a stealth game. I don't play many stealth games, so let's just leave it at that, and talk about the weirdest part of the game, and that's Octavianus' fucking house. It's customizable, which is weird about a game about swords and decapitations, right? But no, it's actually a part of the game! In your free time as Octavianus, you could stroll around the city and buy crap for your house. It has no point in it whatsoever. Why is it even a thing you can do? It's almost like Agrippa and Octavianus themselves pitched this game to Capcom. Agrippa, of course, discussing ideas of swords and decapitations, while Octavianus occasionally mentioned things like, oh, have you guys ever played The Sims or anything else shit like that? It just doesn't belong here, and to be honest, it isn't manly enough for the rest of the game. So let's talk about the rest of the game. The gameplay that features sweaty men in skirts running around in the sand. The story goes that Agrippa's father, Vipsonius, was wrongly accused as the murderer of Julius Caesar. So while Octavianus sneaks around to prove his innocence, Agrippa, and the help of Captain Jack Sparrow and a lady who dresses in toilet paper, becomes a gladiator to avenge his mother, who was killed because she was married to Julius's alleged murderer, and that. Since her executioner was billed to fight against the best gladiator in Rome, in the Great Colosseum. Agrippa heads out to prove himself as that gladiator, and he does so with swords and decapitations, not for fuck's sake, playing with a doll's house, Octavianus! You prick. Agrippa is then thrown into the setting of the gladiatorial event, where you'd fight not only for your life, but for an audience's spectacle. Why isn't this setting used more in video games? It's the perfect excuse to make a lead character brutally murder opponents but also fight with genuine flair, since he's doing it for the enjoyment of others. Agrippa is rewarded when he does outrageous things to defeat his opponents, such as grabbing them from behind and throwing them onto the back of their neck, or just cutting them in half to make a jam sandwich with the jam is blood and the bread is sweaty-ass gladiator. Yum. Agrippa and his opponents, who range from bloke, lady, small, armoured, and holy fuck he's massive, can all use a large variety of weapons. The main four single-handed weapons being a small sword called a gladius, a mace, a shield, and a bloody scimitar, and I mean bloody. It's the only one-handed weapon that can decapitate opponents, and if you use it right, you could slice off one arm, and then oh, sorry, this is quite hard to illustrate. Oh, that's better. Anyway, if you use it right, you can slice off one arm, and then the other, and then go on to slice the guy's head off as well. And when Agrippa sees the two arms on the floor, he decides that it would be best to lob them at the nearest bloke. And then he takes the head and throws it at the audience because shit, they don't have anything better to do. I mean, they didn't even have video games back then. They had to have something to row their fucking boat. The game also features my favourite boss level in any video game. Throughout the story, Agrippa comes across some elite gladiators that need beating up, and one of them is Arcanus. And I'm not going to spoil the great battle for you, but it involves huge spiked mauls, pillars, catapults, and bums, and everyone likes those things. This is what the game is about, Octavianus. Stop fucking around in women's clothing and pick up a mace, for fuck's sake. Yes, you may call it a disguise, but I know you fucking love it, you brat.